Welcome to World Now at 4. I am Ainan Lubem. First, the headlines. On the headlines, Buhari felicitates Kuka on 70th birthday. South Sudan's former rebels joined Unified Army. On the world stage, India to replace colonial flag. On sports, Chelsea signed French defender from Leicester City. And now the news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari has celebrated the Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Matthew Kuka, on his 70th birthday, lauding the cleric's contributions to national discourse. Bishop Kuka, a critic of the current administration, turned 70 today. The president, in a message by his spokesman, Femi Adesina, joined the Catholic Church, friends, and associates in celebrating with the priest on the milestone. He prayed that God would grant Bishop Kuka a longer life, good health, and strength. Meanwhile, the president has also eulogized the last leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, saying history will be kind to him for prioritizing the interest of Russians over his political ambitions. Gorbachev died on Tuesday in Moscow at the age of 91 years. Gorbachev, 91 years, served from 1985 to 1991, helping to transition the U.S.-Soviet relations out of the Cold War. The federal government has invited pro-chancellors, vice-chancellors, and chairmen of governing councils of federal universities to a meeting in Abuja as part of efforts to resolve the ongoing strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The meeting was convened by the National Universities Commission, that is NUC, which stated that participants would review actions of the government on the strike. The letter inviting the heads of the universities to the meeting was signed by the NUC's Deputy Executive Secretary, Administration, Chris Meyaki, and obtained by news correspondents on Tuesday. This came to the fore as the strike by ASU continues to get tense amid the decision of the university lecturers to declare a comprehensive industrial action. Meanwhile, the Minister of State for Education, Goodluck Opiah, said the federal government had done much for the education sector, especially for the universities, during his presentation to the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TED Fund. The Nigeria Police Community Relations Committee has organized a security town hall meeting in Lagos State, southwest Nigeria, in order to foster unity between citizens and the force. The secretary to the Lagos State government, represented by Olabisi Shonibare, said the town hall meeting will enable stakeholders and the public to exchange ideas.
The town hall meeting is organized quarterly to deepen the message of security among all relevant stakeholders on how to improve security and peaceful coexistence in our communities, particularly as we approach the last quarter of the year and as we prepare for the general elections slated to hold next.
Also speaking, Kehinde Showemimo, the state's chairman on PCRC, spoke on the importance of the meeting.
It's safe, relatively safe, but to make it safer and to be a continuous thing, to make it to continue to be safe, such that we can all live peacefully. That's the sense of this gathering.
The National Association of Nigerian Students, that is NANS, has urged state-owned universities to resume academic activities, describing the total and indefinite strike declared by the Academic Staff Union of Universities as unpatriotic and wicked. The NANS president, Sunday Asefon, stated this in a statement today to newsmen. Asefon alleged that the decision to extend the industrial action after 6 months was easy for ASU because they keep employment at various private universities around the country. The NANS president urged ASU leadership in state institutions to toe the path of honor and call off the strike. It will be recalled that the president of the ASU, Emmanuel Osedeke, said in a statement on Monday that the National Executive Council of the Union in Abuja resolved to transmute the rollover strike to a comprehensive, total and indefinite strike action beginning from 12:01 a.m. on Monday, 29th August 22. When we return, news from other parts of Africa. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Now to news from other parts of Africa. Thousands of former rebels swore an oath of loyalty in a ceremony held under tight security in South Sudan. Nearly 22,000 men and women drawn from the main parties as well as the South Sudan Opposition Alliance participated in Tuesday's proceedings, which are originally scheduled to take place in 2019 according to a peace deal. South Sudan's President Salva Mayardit praised the progress made, and also the United Nations representative in the country praised this new developments.
Out of all the chapters of the agreement, the graduation of the unified forces under Chapter 2 has been the most challenging and yet the most important.
Over 200 of your comrades have died in the 18 training centers.
The ceremony came weeks after the country's leaders appointed to run a transitional government announced that they would remain in power 2 years beyond an agreed deadline, sparking international concern. Since achieving independence from Sudan, the world's youngest nation has lurched from crisis to crisis, battling flooding, hunger, ethnic violence, and political turmoil. Under-Secretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs has expressed concern at the stalemate in Libya following recent clashes in Tripoli between rival factions vying for power. Speaking before the Security Council in New York, Rosemary DiCarlo denounced efforts from pro-Bashagha forces of trying to take the capital from the east.
I'm deeply concerned that the ongoing stalemate and continued delays in implementing the electoral process pose a growing threat to security in and around Tripoli and potentially to all Libyans. The United Nations has consistently underscored that the conduct of elections remains the only way to break the current impasse. Despite our continued efforts, no progress has been made on forging a consensus on a constitutional framework for the elections.
The Libyan ambassador, Tahir El-Soni, to the United Nations reaffirmed the lack of progress and continued suffering on the ground. Clashes over last weekend in Tripoli recorded at least 32 deaths as well as considerable material damage. We move to other parts of the world after this break. Stay tuned. In a fervent speech against gun violence on Tuesday, United States of America, that is the USA President Joe Biden, condemned as sickening the violent threats against FBI agents who searched Donald Trump's Florida home. Biden's speech, delivered in Pennsylvania, comes after the FBI and U.S. Department of Homeland Security warned earlier this month of an increase in threats following the search of Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago when agents removed what prosecutors described as 11 sets of classified documents, including some marked top secret as part of a criminal investigation. In recent weeks, Biden has largely stepped aside conversations about the investigation, with the White House saying the Justice Department operates independently even though the risk of disclosing sensitive information has national security implications. Biden, during his speech, also spoke passionately about passing an assault weapons ban and the importance of police funding in the important battleground states ahead of November midterm elections. Tuesday's visit to the small city of Wilkes-Barre gave Biden an opportunity to address a key concern for voters in a critical state that helped him win the presidency in 2020. And in India, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's office on Wednesday revealed that India will unfurl a new naval flag that retires a British colonial symbol to mark the formal debut of the country's first locally built aircraft carrier. According to reports, the current flag features a prominent cross of St. George, the national flag of England, and a legacy from India's 9 decades as grown dependency, which ended with independence in 1947. According to Modi, the new design will be revealed on Friday in southern Kerala state at the commissioning of the Vikrant, which his office touted as a significant step for military self-reliance. The St. George Cross has been a feature of the naval ensign since 1928. Between 2002 and 2004, when the Hindu nationalist government of the time replaced it with a blue Indian Navy crest. Local media reports said it was reintroduced after complaints by service members that the crest could not be easily spotted against the color of the sky and the ocean. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has said Mikhail Gorbachev, the last Soviet leader who died on Tuesday, had a huge impact on the course of history. He understood reforms were necessary, Putin said, while the head of the UN, Antonio Guterres, held a tireless advocate for peace. Putin's spokesman, however, said Gorbachev had been wrong to believe in internal romance with the West. Gorbachev took power in 1985 before the Soviet Union collapsed by 1991. In his message, President Putin said he deeply understood that reforms were necessary but strove to offer You're still watching World Now at 4 on Hills TV, and now to business news. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, that is NCAA, have said it would withdraw the licenses of domestic airlines within 30 days, beginning from August 30, 2022, if the airlines fail to sign a memorandum of understanding on how to clear the about 46 billion naira debt which they owe aviation agencies. Speaking at a stakeholders meeting in Abuja, the Director General, NCAA, Musa Nuhu, described the letter as false, saying the charges had remained the same since 2009 but would be reviewed soon, a development that might trigger another hike in airfares.
July 31st, 2022, AO members have collected over 19 billion naira and over $7.6 million in TSC and CSC, which they have deliberately failed to remit the authority, but illegally converted these funds to their own use. All the airlines are guilty of this.
At the meeting, it was established that the domestic airlines owed NCAA 19 billion naira and 7.6 million US dollars as at Tuesday's official exchange rate, of while their indebtedness to the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria was put at 18 billion naira. They also owe the Nigerian Airspace Management Agency 5.73 billion naira, bringing their cumulative indebtedness to the three agencies to 45.95 billion naira. The NCAA boss stated that in his response to the letter from the AON, he made it clear that the ticket sales charge and cargo sales charge were statutory charges enshrined in the Civil Aviation Act of 2006. Hong Kong leader John Lee has cancelled a trip to mainland China aimed at resuming cross-border travel, illustrating the quagmire facing the financial hub as it struggled to exist nearly 3 years of economically devastating isolation. Lee said today he would discuss the border situation with mainland Chinese officials online instead of face-to-face due to rising COVID-19 cases on both sides of the border. Lee, who took office following a Beijing-managed patriots-only election in May, was scheduled to travel to Guangzhou and neighboring tech hub Shenzhen to discuss ways to restart travel between Hong Kong and mainland China. According to reports, Hong Kong follows a less stringent version of China's draconic zero-COVID policy, which has been largely cut off from the Chinese mainland and the rest of the world since authority closed the borders in February 2020. It was also gathered that Hong Kong's gross domestic product, that is GDP, shrank 1.4% in the April-June period, following a 3.9% decline in the first quarter, sending the city into a technical recession for the second time in 3 years. Still to come on World Now at 4 is sports news. Stay with us.
Very good evening to you and welcome to Sport News on World Now at 4. I am Richard Badung. The news: Commonwealth Games women's long jumper champion Ese Brume on Tuesday claimed a bronze medal in the event at the Palosita della Quercia meet in Rovereto, Italy. It was Brume's first action back on the field since reclaiming the Commonwealth Games title in Birmingham. After 2 attempts, the Nigerian had placed second place, jumping 6.37 meters. That was not to earn Brume a silver medal, as she finished third in the contest, jumping a mark of 6.53 meters on her 5th attempt. A 6.53 meters jump was far from record-breaking 7.3 or 7.00 meters jump at the last Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, where she won a gold medal. Former European under-20 long jump champion and Serbian Mili Gadasavic won this event as she leapt a mark of 6.78 meter, while Jasmine Sawyers of England jumped 6.73 meter to secure the second spot. 9-time African champions, the Super Falcons of Nigeria, has arrived in the United States of America on a 2-match tour with the United States women's national team. The first of the 2 matches is slated for September 3 at the Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, Kansas. Both teams have qualified for next year's FIFA World Cup, Women's World Cup finals in Australia and New Zealand, and they will face each other once more at the field in Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, 6 September. To let you, before we go quickly, Chelsea Football Club of England has completed the signing of Leicester City defender Wesley Fofana. Fofana, who is a key player for the Foxes, has joined the blue side in the region for a 7-year deal, the region of 70 million. He made 37 appearances in the Premier League since joining Leicester City from French side Saint-Etienne in 2020. He was restricted to just 7 league games during the 2021-2022 campaign after breaking his leg in pre-season. He is the third most expensive Premier League defender behind Manchester United's £80 million purchase of Harry Maguire in 2019, also from Leicester City, and Liverpool's Virgil van Dijk, who joined the Reds for £75 million in 2017. And that's Sport News on World Now at 4. Back to Ainan Lubem for the rest of the news. I'm Richard Bado.
Thank you so much, Richard Bagden, for the sport news. Now to the rest of the news. Edo State Police Command has arrested 30 suspected victims of occult-related killings in the state. In a statement released today by the command's deputy spokesperson, Jennifer Iwegu, the command swung into action after reported killings in different parts of the state. And that's World Now at 4. But before we go, a quick look